There are 200,000 farmers in Canada. Let's dig into their problems. Welcome to the Hands That Feed Us on tour. I'm Devin Cook, and I'm driving across Canada to find romance. But not the kind you think. I'm looking for the romance, the big ideas, the ambition, and the sheer bloody-mindedness that can rebuild Canada's economy. Today I'm at Row 14, the on-farm restaurant at Klippers Organics where I shot part of my film in 2020. I'm here with farmer Kevin Klippenstein and former head chef Derek Gray to talk about what it was like starting a restaurant in the middle of COVID.
I want to start with you, Kevin. I want you to tell the story of what it was like opening up the restaurant in March of 2020.
Well, I guess first of all, I'll say that, yes, Derek was our chef, but he was also our partner in the restaurant. And so we get a call. This all happened, the award for the best restaurant in Vancouver all happened at Christmas time. Like, I think it was like end of December.
Yeah.
We get this award. So the books, everything started just filling up. Like, everybody wanted to come check it out. We heard things like, how can this restaurant, it's not even open, how could it win this award? So we were planning on opening up mid-March, guest chefs lined up, we had staff we brought in early to train to make sure we were ready for like a full house. And everybody wanted to come to Cawston. So that was all happening, and then COVID happened. And we ended up having to lay everybody off, and we had troubles getting Jamaican workers here too that we normally have. So we offered everybody a wage to go work on the farm. But then the government had this brilliant idea to give everybody CERB. So no one wanted to work. They all said, hey, let's just sit at home and not make any money, or we'll get paid by the government. So yeah, so that's kind of like the start of March.
So this is what it's like to start a restaurant.
Yeah.
Derek, I would love to get your take on that time as well.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. Like, we're gearing up towards like probably one of the busiest seasons we're gonna have. Well, our first big season. You know, it's a big step for all of us. You know, it's our first foray into a restaurant on a farm, and to be hit with news that a bug's coming around the world and kind of closing things down. At first, when you don't live in a big town, you don't see the effects of it. So we're just like, oh, it's a cold, it'll be fine. And then all of a sudden the government steps in and shuts everything. We tried to make it work. You know, it was really hard at the beginning, you know, when they were like, okay, you can't have any dining people, you can only do takeout. We ran that for a bit and didn't see a massive turnout. And we structured our food around, you know, simplicity and bringing people in here. But I understand people, they're scared, they don't want to go outside, so.
Kevin, you hosted me here for 2 months, but what did you think when I showed up in 2020 with this claim that farmers don't make any money? I'd love to hear your side of that story.
I guess one of the things that comes out all the time is that farmers don't make any money, and like, I believe it is a hard go, but if you work hard, you can get to your dreams, right? So I was like, yeah, I'll show you that we can make money, and this is how we do it. And you'll see on the film maybe that we put a lot of long hours, a lot of days, but we can make things work, right? So,
part two is, when I was here, Row 14 was brand new. It had launched in
August. We opened up at the end of the season, basically in August of 2019.
And you got a rave review from the restaurant critic for the Golden Mail.
Yeah.
Do you want to share what that review said?
The best in Vancouver, and we're not in Vancouver, so that was a huge, you know, accomplishment for us in general, but also a great representation of what the Similkameen has to offer, from, you know, great wines to good farms and like unbelievable produce. Like, how can you not win something like that? So we were all proud of what we could showcase here, for sure.
I don't know when this happened, but Derek, at some point you stopped working at Row 14. And I would love to just get I haven't heard the story, but I'd love to hear the story of how you stopped working.
It was a tough choice. Kevin, Anne-Marie, and myself, we worked tirelessly to keep this restaurant afloat. And when you love something, you put everything on the line. And that line came at a kind of a hard straw where, you know, there's no paycheck coming in for us. You know, we put the blood, sweat, and tears to make this operate, made sure our employees were paid, made sure their lights were on and everything happened. But at a point when you're raising 2 kids and you have a wife and you got to do something to provide as a husband and a father, I had to make the really tough choice. And I didn't want to go to another restaurant. Like, this was my dream, and I opened it up with 2 farmers. It would just be selling my soul for a paycheck, and that's not something I wanted to do. So I had to make a tough decision, and now I'm with Sparky. So.
Okay, thank you. I have one more question for Kevin. The film to me is about how to use money well. How do we use money better? And what do we do to keep going when there isn't enough of it? To me, the heart of the film is that bit about romance at the end. And I guess, Derek, I want to know what the romance was when Row 14 was starting. What dream did you have in your mind when Row 14 started?
It was like that kind of introduction with Kevin when he was taking me around the orchard and having that, you know, ability of that access to that fruits and the vegetables at that source. So that was the defining moment for me, and kind of the goal of what a true restaurant should be is like what we've described it as a chef and 2 farmers, right? It's that's the dream, and that's the kind of like passion behind it as well, for sure.
Yeah, farm to table is a term that gets thrown around all over the place. This is a farm to table restaurant.
I would say, I would even suggest it's actually not a farm to table, it's a table on a farm. That's what it is, essentially. Like, you are surrounded by nothing but great produce. And you see people that work hard and put their life's work into it to show what we can present on a plate, for sure.
So what kept you going as long as you did?
It was my dream. It was my goal to do something like this. And you know what? That was my striving force. I wanted to show the kids that, you know, like, if you have something to achieve or want to push for, do it all. Like, throw it against the wall, and if it sticks, it sticks. And if it doesn't, you have to learn to grow from it. And yeah, that was my driving force. It's 3 years of us 3 working extremely hard at making this happen. Well, they had another 3 or 4 more businesses on the side as well too. It just came down to financially. That's it.
So I want to follow up on that thought about finance, because the way that I've sort of put it in the film is romance trumps finance, and obviously romance did not trump finance in that particular case. And you know, the romance is what was common in all of the farmers that are in the film, because all the farmers that were in the film had struggles. And all of the farmers kept going. And somehow you make something work, but you keep going towards it. I want to ask you, because you made a different decision. Yeah. And you know, am I wrong to think that?
I don't think so. It's more of like what you can throw at. When it affected me as a husband and a provider for the family, and for growth of our family, it had to make sense that I had to take a step away from it. And to touch on this thing of romance, I don't think it's romance in my opinion. I think it's more of a desire. Like, a passion will get you out of bed, you know, for weeks, but when it becomes a routine, it's not passion anymore. It's a desire to like continue to do what you really crave and love, right? Thomas Keller put it best, as like, and which is a famous American chef. He talks about the desire trumps passion, because you can have passion for that asparagus to show up from your back door every single week, but by cooking it 1,000 times, you're not going to have that same passion. It's about the desire to, you know, put that on the plate every single time the correct way and the right way.
So it seems to me like the desire rested with your family, and that yes. was what trumped passion.
For sure, yeah. Family is what life is all about. And you can see it in the farms as well, right? The farmers are working towards the next generation. They're not working for themselves. Like, I think you guys have put it once as like, if you're a pear farmer, you're not farming for yourself, you're farming for the next generation.
It's like a continuous passion project, you can say, right? For us, it was about showcasing what we grow.
Yes.
To showcase it here. And it's like one of those things that I think I say every year is, next year will be better.
Here we are 6 years later, you've just served a dinner, and it is Kevin and Anna Marie and Ben in the kitchen. You are still here. Why?
The passion? We just keep going, yeah. That's and we got our kids now that are like working on taking over what we've got. The film was actually done before we even opened up the cafe and marketplace, so that was another addition that we did. But it was to get our food out there, like just on seconds. I guess we always look at food waste, and we don't want to have food waste. So how do we solve that? So Derek was perfect for that. Like you'd have squash and it have a little mark on it, and I remember some of the cooks would be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I can't have this. I need something perfect." And Derek was like, "What are you talking about? This stuff actually can taste better because the blemish actually brings some more sweetness into it." And you try to explain that, and then you explain that to our guests in the restaurant, and then people start they look at food differently.
Yeah, and to touch on that too is like Anne-Marie opened my eyes to food waste on a grand scale. It's like, what, markets see maybe 15% of what you grow, right? And a lot of it's just back into compost and wastage. And it's like, or we have a stance to do something different and make a change and, you know, fulfill a plate that those tomatoes or those squash might never see.
I want to know, and coming back to this idea that what is it that we can do? Not how do we solve the big giant problems that are, you know, you can talk a really good game and come up with a great solution on the back of a napkin that is just impossible to do. What can we do to fill this room a little bit more and make it so that Kevin and Anna Marie are not the ones in here doing the work all the time? How do we get them over that hump?
How important is it, or is it seen as a sellout if a farm does something like that? Like have world's biggest cowboy booth or something out front to draw people in?
For me, I think if it's done tastefully, like as putting a restaurant or a marketplace that draws attention to what you're doing and trying to build community in a small town. Like one thing I wanted to touch on was when you think about the Okanagan, what comes to mind is vineyards, you know, grapes, wines. That's why people come here.
Beaches!
You know, but there's orchards that were here a long time before that, you know, ground crops in here. So I think like having a place like this, or, you know, people doing things like this as well, only add to the value of what the valley can bring, right? Like food is a huge thing, and, you know, wine's great, but I'd rather have really good food and good produce.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. If you're educating the consumer, it's great to have people come to the farm. Like, and the thing is that going back to not making any money on a farm, there's so many farms now trying to have weddings on farms. They're trying to do anything just to supplement that income. So I wouldn't want to say that they're a sellout because they're trying to make a living.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I learned from being on these different farms was that farming isn't just one thing. Klippers is a farm and a restaurant and guest suites and a cidery and all of those things. Arzina, the first farm, she is a regional politician. She's a regional councillor for the Comox Valley. Susan, the last farm of the film, runs an antique shop. All of those things are together. I don't know that there is so much of a should there, and in fact that was one of the first shoulds that I lost when I was making the film, is I thought farming should be a job. I don't think farming works as a job. I think it works as a lifestyle, as what someone else said, and it's what has been said many, many times in the film and otherwise. So I don't think it's a sellout at all.
Thanks for listening to The Hands That Feed Us on tour. My goal for the tour is to host 250 discussions in rural agricultural communities across Canada. That's one every weekday. The tour is possible because of word of mouth. My offer is this. If you have a barn or a basement anywhere in Canada, I will personally come to your community, host a screening of my documentary, The Hands That Feed Us, and facilitate a discussion. All you have to do is invite your friends and neighbors. If you know someone who might want to bring my tour to town, send them a link to this episode, or get them to sign up at thehandsthatfeedus.ca/host. There's a link in the episode description. Next week, in Gull Lake, Alberta, the audience told me my depiction of farm finances wasn't depressing enough. How do farmers keep going in the face of adversity? I would say they do it for the lifestyle. But this audience had a different suggestion. Alcohol. See you next week, and thanks for listening.